This is the video for the quality of life negative or affirmative 2. Put that on the wrong side, sorry. Readings, and we'll go right ahead. It's pretty much just one advantage here, a mental health advantage. And that advantage, basically, the ways that social media and digital media benefit our mental health and our sense of identity and things like that. Many of these arguments could be standalone advantages themselves. For instance, they talk about the ability to discover your own identity, and that could be its own advantage with some extra research, or it could just be one subpoint on a mental health advantage. The same with like the stuff about being able to find an expression, an outlet for your creative expression, right? That could be a whole advantage of its own, or it could be just one subpoint and a mental health advantage. Also, don't forget to impact these arguments. Maybe talk about how many suicides and mental health problems the United States faces as a way to give us some sense of the importance of this advantage. This is a literature review essay, so there's a lot of sources that are cited here, and that can be a great way to find additional sources. And also, you're going to need to do that because there's not a lot of the full points and full arguments here. It's just sort of a summary of the arguments that are out there. Ignore the section of the reading that's about education benefits. We've already debated education, so let's not bring that up again. So some of the advantages, supportive relationships and groups are some of the points for this advantage. For instance, there are self-help groups out there for people suffering from addiction, for people that have terminal diseases. There's ways to find supportive relationships if you're, maybe an outcast or different in some ways in our society. There's, for instance, groups online that help people with that are homosexual or LGBTQ people, deal with the issues that other people in their lives are foisting upon them. These groups and other groups can provide a sense of belonging and self-esteem. It can help strengthen relationships by giving us more easy ways to connect with one another. And it can help build community as well, right? That we can find online communities that can benefit, everyone, give us a sense of belonging and help our mental health that way. There's stuff about identity formation, and especially for adolescents, that having these online avenues is ways that we can explore, kind of who we are, what we're into, what our interests are, who we get along with, and so we can help form our identity. And obviously, having a sort of strong sense of self is one of the keys to having strong mental health. The same for creative expression and the ability to have outlets for our creative expression. Obviously, with things like YouTube and the ease of digital production software, all of us have more of a chance to be creative and to get our voices out there. And that can bolster our confidence, that can give us a strong sense of self, and improve our mental health that way. If you remember, if you've ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's like a pyramid of, like on the bottom is things like food and shelter. The top of the pyramid is self-actualization, right? That's when we feel kind of, that's when we've been completely fulfilled, is when we have this chance for self-actualization. And obviously, creative expression is an example of self-actualization. The article also has some answers to potential rebuttals about privacy and risks that adolescents or children might face online. So be sure to check those out as well. Speaking of rebuttals, obviously you can use the mental health arguments that we've covered for the negative against these positive benefits. In addition, there were many ways for us to build relationships and community before social media. So, you can press the affirmative on proving that this uniquely increases those things. There can also be very harmful groups online. For instance, there are pro eating disorder websites out there. So groups have formed that tell each other, yes, you're too fat and you should have an eating disorder, and obviously those can be harmful for someone's self-esteem as much as they can be helpful for their mental health. There's lots of bullying and harassment that takes place online. You could look up cyberbullying, for instance, as an extension of that argument. Social isolation. I think I mentioned the author Turkle, Turkle, before, but she makes the argument about how we kind of bury our faces in devices and don't interact with one another. And so then that can backfire for mental health if we feel isolated. These things can also stifle our creativity. Sometimes people are afraid to express themselves because they're afraid of what people might say or might respond to. Also, all the competition of so many other people trying to be creative might make us lose confidence and harm our creativity. And just in general, maybe technology hurts creativity, right? Like when I was growing up, we had to be very creative to come up with games to play outside. We had robust imaginations. Now you don't have to be that creative. You just plug in your iPad and play a game. And so there's some arguments about decline of creativity because of easy access to media. Obviously, networks are too big. We'll talk about this more with the next set of readings. But basically, we spend too much time with kind of acquaintances and other people on our social media, and that ends up undermining our strong ties. Face-to-face interaction might be better, and there might be some kind of time and energy trade-off from spending time online and spending time face-to-face. And finally, the issues of addiction that we will cover with the next video as well. There's possibilities that, again, this goes with the trade-off argument, right? And if we're addicted and we spend a lot of time online, then obviously addiction kind of might hurt our mental health, and it also might, trade off with more productive things that we could be doing for our mental health. For instance, physical health helps boost mental health, but if we're spending too much time playing games or being on social media, then maybe we're not working out as much. Maybe we're not spending time with close friends as much, and therefore that harms our mental health as well. So those are the basic arguments here, as well as some rebuttals. So be sure to find some additional articles to help strengthen this affirmative point, and we'll brainstorm rebuttals coming up on next class period. All right, take care.